Deep in the American South, tucked away among sprawling moss-draped oaks and forgotten fields, stands the imposing Willow Creek Plantation. Its white columns and grand architecture betray a cruel history beneath the surface, one built on the backs of enslaved men and women whose suffering is largely erased from popular memory. For over 60 years, one small door in the mansion remained locked, hidden from view, its purpose buried by time and silence. This door guarded a room shrouded in mystery, rumored to have been a prison within a prison, where enslaved women who resisted or defied the planter family were confined in utter darkness. The room was cold, windowless, and designed to break not only the body but also the spirit, cutting off its occupants from hope, identity, and even the basic dignity of being seen or heard. While the grand plantation flaunted wealth and power, behind this locked door lay stories of pain, resilience, and defiance that would haunt the estate long after the last slaveholder left. This essay explores the hidden history of that locked room, weaving together historical facts, survivor stories, and psychological reflections to illuminate a dark but vital chapter of America's past. The Willow Creek Plantation was established in the early 1800s, during a time when the Southern economy thrived on the brutal institution of slavery. Stretching across hundreds of acres, the estate's fields produced cotton and tobacco, crops that fueled wealth for the planter family, while enslaved workers labored from dawn to dusk. The plantation house itself was a symbol of power and prestige, with towering columns, polished wood, and lavish furnishings. Yet, the grand exterior masked a world of oppression and cruelty. Enslaved women were subjected to physical exhaustion, constant surveillance, and the ever-present threat of violence. They bore unique burdens, forced into grueling labor, but also vulnerable to sexual exploitation, family separations, and psychological torment. While official records carefully documented the plantation's finances and inventories, certain truths were deliberately obscured. Among these was a small, secret chamber hidden beneath the mansion, a space not noted on any blueprint, where enslaved women who resisted were confined and punished. This locked room, its key kept by the planter family, represented a sinister tool of control designed to isolate, intimidate, and erase those deemed troublesome. Historical accounts from neighboring plantations reveal that punishment cells like the one at Willow Creek were more common than many realize. These spaces, often small and windowless, were used to imprison enslaved individuals as a form of brutal discipline and psychological warfare. Yet, the locked room at Willow Creek had a particularly harrowing reputation among the local enslaved community. Oral histories passed down through generations tell of women confined there for days, weeks, even months, stripped of any human contact, left in near total darkness, deprived of warmth and sustenance. The aim was not only to punish, but to break their will, sever their sense of self, and force submission. Despite such harsh conditions, stories also speak of remarkable resilience. Women would sing softly to themselves in the dark, whisper prayers for freedom, and hold on to memories of their loved ones. These acts of mental and emotional resistance became lifelines, ways to preserve identity and dignity in the face of dehumanization. Among these stories is that of Nia, a woman whose courage became legend. Imprisoned for months for protecting others planning to escape, her silence was a shield, her strength a beacon that inspired hope beyond the cold walls. The locked room's silence echoed far beyond its walls. After the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, Willow Creek Plantation gradually fell into disuse. The planter family left, the fields grew wild, and nature began reclaiming the land. Yet, the locked room remained sealed, its door untouched for over 6 decades. Locals whispered of strange occurrences, soft cries carried on the wind, footsteps echoing in empty halls, sudden chills felt near the mansion. Some believe these were the restless spirits of the women who had suffered within the room, their pain and longing anchoring them to the estate. Paranormal investigators who later explored the mansion reported overwhelming feelings of sorrow and despair, occasional unexplained noises, and fleeting shadows. But beyond ghost stories, these hauntings serve as manifestations of collective trauma, reminders of the unresolved wounds inflicted by slavery. Psychologists studying sites like Willow Creek describe how transgenerational trauma can imprint itself on communities, influencing identity, mental health, and collective memory long after the physical horrors have passed. The locked room is thus not only a site of past imprisonment, but a living symbol of historical pain that still demands recognition. In recent years, descendants of enslaved people, historians, and activists united in a campaign to open the locked room and uncover its secrets. Their goal was not only to reveal forgotten artifacts, but to honor the memories of the women who had been imprisoned there and to bring attention to the hidden histories of slavery. When the door was finally unlocked, it revealed fragments of a forgotten past, worn scraps of fabric, handmade tools, faint inscriptions on the walls, and personal items that spoke of lives abruptly halted. The discovery ignited powerful conversations about the legacy of slavery, the unique struggles of enslaved women, and the necessity of confronting uncomfortable truths to foster healing. Memorial ceremonies were held on the estate grounds, giving voice to the silenced and restoring dignity to those once forgotten. Educational programs now use the locked room as a focal point to teach about resilience, resistance, and the human cost of systemic oppression. The room, once a place of darkness and isolation, has become a beacon of remembrance and a call to justice. Remembering the locked room and the women imprisoned within it is essential for confronting history honestly. The story challenges us to recognize the depth of cruelty endured and to appreciate the remarkable strength required to survive. It also highlights the importance of acknowledging gendered violence in slavery, how enslaved women bore unique, compounded burdens that have too often been overlooked. The legacy of this room extends beyond its physical walls, influencing how communities remember and engage with the past. By honoring these stories, we validate the experiences of marginalized voices and create space for healing intergenerational trauma. Moreover, this remembrance serves as a warning, reminding society of the dangers of dehumanization and the need for vigilance against injustice. The locked room is a silent teacher, urging us not to forget and to strive for a future where such suffering is never repeated. The story of the Willow Creek locked room embodies the paradox of history. It is a place meant to erase identity, but which ultimately preserves memory. The women confined there were hidden away, but their courage and spirit have transcended the darkness. Through the efforts of historians and descendants, the room's secrets have been unveiled, shedding light on a painful chapter that many hoped would remain buried. This journey from silence to voice reflects the broader movement to reclaim marginalized histories and amplify forgotten narratives. As society continues to reckon with the legacy of slavery, spaces like the locked room become vital touchstones for education, empathy, and justice. They remind us that history is not just written in books, but etched into places, objects, and memories. The haunted plantation room, once a symbol of oppression, now stands as a monument to resilience, a testament to the human capacity to endure, resist, and transcend even the darkest confinements. The psychological toll endured by the women locked away in the plantation room cannot be overstated. Isolation, sensory deprivation, and fear create conditions that erode a person's sense of self, often leading to despair and trauma. Yet, within the walls of that dark cell, enslaved women found ways to resist the mental assault. Psychological resilience is a deeply human trait, nurtured by hope, memory, and community, even when physically severed from it. Scholars studying trauma note that such resilience often arises from maintaining identity and connection, even in the most dire circumstances. For the imprisoned women, singing old songs, recalling family stories, or silently vowing to survive became acts of defiance. These coping mechanisms helped preserve their humanity, even as the plantation system sought to strip it away. This psychological struggle echoes through generations, influencing descendants who carry the echoes of that pain and strength in their collective memory, a phenomenon known as transgenerational trauma. The role of enslaved women in plantation resistance has often been overshadowed in history by broader narratives focused on economic or military aspects of slavery. Yet, their defiance, both subtle and overt, shaped the course of history. The locked room symbolizes one facet of this resistance, where refusal to submit meant imprisonment, but surrender was never guaranteed. Women resisted through work slowdowns, secret communication, protecting family members, and, when possible, escape attempts. The locked room was a stark reminder of the risks they faced, yet also a space where courage quietly burned. Oral histories from African American communities emphasize the importance of such stories, passing them down as sources of pride and identity. These narratives challenge dominant historical perspectives, reclaiming the voices of women who shaped their destinies against brutal odds and whose legacies deserve acknowledgement. The discovery of artifacts inside the locked room offers a poignant glimpse into the lives once imprisoned there. Among the fragments found were worn pieces of cloth, handmade jewelry, and faded inscriptions on the walls, silent testimonies to the women's presence and humanity. These artifacts serve as physical connections bridging the gap between past and present, transforming abstract historical facts into tangible realities. For historians and archaeologists, such discoveries provide invaluable context, allowing deeper understanding of daily life, resistance strategies, and emotional landscapes. For descendants, they offer a powerful sense of connection and closure, reclaiming lost heritage. The preservation and display of these items in museums and educational centers ensure that the women's stories continue to educate and inspire, creating lasting legacies that honor resilience amid suffering. The discovery of artifacts inside the locked room offers a poignant glimpse into the lives once imprisoned there. Among the fragments found were worn pieces of cloth, handmade jewelry, and faded inscriptions on the walls, silent testimonies to the women's presence and humanity. These artifacts serve as physical connections bridging the gap between past and present, transforming abstract historical facts into tangible realities. For historians and archaeologists, such discoveries provide invaluable context, allowing deeper understanding of daily life, resistance strategies, and emotional landscapes. For descendants, they offer a powerful sense of connection and closure, reclaiming lost heritage. The preservation and display of these items in museums and educational centers ensure that the women's stories continue to educate and inspire, creating lasting legacies that honor resilience amid suffering. The unlocking of the room was a pivotal moment for the community and the nation's ongoing reckoning with its history of slavery. It symbolized a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and to honor voices long silenced. Activists, historians, and descendants collaborated to ensure that the room's history was not just revealed but respected. Educational programs sprang up around the discovery, integrating the room's story into broader curricula about slavery, resistance, and African American history. The site became a place for reflection, remembrance, and learning, offering a tangible connection to the human cost of systemic oppression. This act of opening a locked door transformed into a metaphor for opening minds and hearts to justice and healing. It reminds us that history is not static. It evolves as new stories emerge and old wounds are addressed. Understanding the locked room within the broader context of slavery's gender violence is crucial. Enslaved women were subjected to unique forms of oppression that intersected race, gender, and power. Beyond forced labor, they faced sexual exploitation, family separations, and psychological torment that male enslaved individuals sometimes did not endure in the same way. The locked room symbolizes this intersectional brutality, a space where resistance was met with cruel punishment designed to erase both body and identity. Scholars today emphasize the importance of incorporating gender into slavery narratives, as it reveals the full spectrum of suffering and resilience. Recognizing these experiences not only honors those who endured them, but also deepens society's understanding of how systemic violence operates. The locked room stands as a stark reminder that slavery's legacy is multifaceted and must be acknowledged in all its complexity to achieve true historical justice. The legacy of the locked room also informs contemporary discussions about trauma, memory, and social justice. Psychological research into transgenerational trauma shows how the wounds inflicted by slavery continue to affect descendants, influencing mental health, identity formation, and community dynamics. The silence surrounding spaces like the locked room contributes to feelings of invisibility and erasure. By bringing these stories to light, descendants reclaim their history and assert their presence in the ongoing narrative of American identity. The room's reopening has spurred initiatives aimed at healing, including counseling programs, community dialogues, and cultural projects that center African American voices. This process illustrates how confronting painful history is essential for breaking cycles of trauma and fostering resilience. The haunted room, once a symbol of suffering, now serves as a catalyst for empowerment and collective healing. The stories of women imprisoned in the locked room, though often fragmentary and transmitted through oral tradition, offer profound lessons in human endurance. Figures like Nia, whose courage became legend, exemplify how hope and resistance can survive even in the bleakest circumstances. These narratives challenge the dehumanizing narratives imposed by slavery, reaffirming enslaved women's agency and strength. Their experiences provide crucial counterpoints to historical erasure, inspiring contemporary movements for racial and gender justice. Through storytelling, descendants and historians reconstruct these lives, honoring the complexity of their humanity. The locked room thus becomes a site of memory where pain and power coexist, reminding us that even in confinement, the human spirit can remain unbroken. The physical space of the locked room itself holds symbolic power. Architecture often shapes and reflects social dynamics. And in this case, the design of the room, small, windowless, heavily fortified, reflects the intent to control and isolate. Yet, the very act of sealing this room away paradoxically preserved its secrets and stories. When it was finally opened, the space transformed from a prison into a monument, a place of learning and reflection. This shift underscores how material culture can embody both oppression and memory. Preserving such sites allows present and future generations to engage with history viscerally, moving beyond abstract facts to lived experience. The room's architecture thus tells a story as powerful as the voices it contains, bridging past and present in a shared space of reckoning. The unlocking of the Willow Creek Room sparked a wave of renewed scholarly interest and public engagement with hidden histories of slavery. Museums and universities began collaborations to document, preserve, and interpret the artifacts and stories uncovered. Exhibitions highlighting the experiences of enslaved women gained prominence, challenging previous historical narratives that centered mostly on male experiences or economic analysis. Public history projects invited descendants to participate actively, blending academic research with community memory. These efforts democratize history, ensuring it reflects diverse perspectives and experiences. The locked room story thus becomes a catalyst for reshaping how society understands and teaches about slavery, promoting inclusion, complexity, and empathy. The rediscovery of the locked room also sparked important conversations about how we memorialize traumatic histories. Unlike traditional monuments that often celebrate victors or sanitize versions of history, the locked room demands a more complex engagement. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about violence, oppression, and silence. Memorialization here is not just about honoring victims, but about bearing witness to their suffering and resilience. The room's preservation encourages visitors to reflect on the human cost of slavery, to feel the weight of history through tangible artifacts and the space itself. This process humanizes those who were once reduced to property, restoring their identities and stories. It also creates a space for empathy and education, fostering a collective responsibility to acknowledge past injustices and commit to a more equitable future. Psychologically, places like the locked room serve as powerful sites of collective memory, where personal and communal histories intersect. Trauma studies reveal that spaces associated with pain and injustice carry emotional resonance that shapes how communities remember and heal. The locked room's physical isolation mirrors the psychological isolation experienced by those confined within it, and, metaphorically, by their descendants whose histories have been marginalized. Engaging with such spaces facilitates memory work, allowing individuals and groups to process trauma, reclaim narratives, and build identity. This process is essential in transforming pain into empowerment. The haunted room, with its history of confinement and resilience, becomes a powerful symbol for confronting systemic oppression and nurturing. In examining the locked room's history, we must also consider the broader systems that enabled such cruelty. Slavery was sustained not only by economic incentives, but by legal, social, and cultural frameworks that dehumanized African Americans, especially women. The locked room was a manifestation of these structures, a physical embodiment of control and erasure. Understanding this context is vital for grappling with slavery's legacy today, which continues to influence social inequalities, racial biases, and systemic injustice. The room's story compels us to interrogate how power operates and to recognize the ongoing struggle for human rights and dignity. It is a call to dismantle oppressive systems and to honor those who resisted them, both then and now. The locked room's reopening also had profound emotional impacts on descendants of those enslaved at Willow Creek. For many, it was a moment of reclaiming history that had been hidden or distorted for generations. Families gained access to stories and artifacts that deepened their understanding of their ancestors' experiences, creating a stronger sense of identity and belonging. This connection to the past fosters resilience and pride, helping to heal wounds inflicted by historical erasure. The room's unveiling transformed it from a place of trauma into a site of empowerment and education. It became a tangible link across time, bridging generations through shared memory and purpose. This transformative power highlights how history, when engaged with honestly and respectfully, can become a source of strength. The stories of resistance emerging from the locked room also inspire contemporary movements for racial and gender justice. The courage displayed by enslaved women who endured imprisonment and torment reminds us that resistance takes many forms, from overt rebellion to quiet endurance. Their legacy informs modern activism, reinforcing the importance of perseverance in the face of systemic oppression. The locked room symbolizes the ongoing fight against injustice, illuminating how historical struggles continue to resonate today. By honoring these stories, society can draw lessons about resilience, solidarity, and the power of voice. The room's history serves as a beacon for those working toward equity and human rights, reminding us that the fight for justice is both historical and ongoing. Education plays a crucial role in ensuring that the locked room's history is preserved and understood. Incorporating the story into school curricula and public programs helps dismantle myths about slavery and highlights the complexity of enslaved women's experiences. Through storytelling, artifact preservation, and community engagement, educators foster empathy and critical thinking. This approach challenges sanitized historical narratives and encourages learners to confront the realities of oppression and resilience. The locked room thus becomes an educational tool, promoting awareness and social change. It empowers new generations to acknowledge past wrongs and to advocate for a more just society. Education around such histories is a form of activism, ensuring that the lessons of the past shape a better future. The physical environment surrounding Willow Creek Plantation also contributes to the haunted aura of the locked room. The sprawling estate, now overgrown with thick vines and towering oaks draped in Spanish moss, serves as a somber backdrop to the tragic histories contained within. Nature's reclaiming of the land mirrors the passage of time, yet the echoes of human suffering persist. Local folklore ties the eerie landscape to the spirits believed to linger near the locked room, reinforcing the idea that the past is not easily forgotten. This intertwining of place and memory creates a powerful context for reflection, reminding visitors that history lives not only in documents, but also in the land itself. The natural decay of the plantation contrasts starkly with the resilience of those who endured its horrors, highlighting the enduring human spirit amid loss and neglect. The unlocking of the room catalyzed collaborative efforts between historians, archaeologists, and community members to document and preserve its contents and stories. These interdisciplinary projects brought together academic rigor and personal testimony, ensuring that multiple perspectives were honored. Archaeological excavations uncovered artifacts that shed light on daily life, resistance, and survival strategies. Community-led oral history projects collected memories passed down through generations, adding rich layers of meaning to the material findings. This collaborative approach challenges traditional hierarchies in historical research, democratizing knowledge production and valuing lived experience. By centering descendant voices and interdisciplinary expertise, the story of a locked room becomes a shared heritage, fostering reconciliation and collective responsibility for preserving history.